All right, everyone, buckle up. We're diving deep into the world of artificial intelligence today. It's one of those things that always seemed like pure science fiction, but suddenly it's kind of dot everywhere.
Yeah, it really is incredible how quickly things have advanced.
You guys sent in some really cool material about the Turing test and the Chinese room experiment, and I gotta say, I'm pretty pumped to unpack these with you. These aren't just like abstract brain teasers.
Oh, absolutely not.
They really get to the core of what it means to think and understand, which, when you think about it, is pretty profound stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually amazing how relevant these ideas, which were, conceived decades ago, still are today.
Right. It's like they predicted the future in a way. Okay, so let's start with the Turing test. I know a lot of you are probably familiar with it, but just to recap, it was proposed by Alan Turing way back in 1950.
Yeah, 1950. That's before computers were even, well, anything close to what we have today. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Totally. Okay, so imagine this. A machine is trying to convince a human judge that it's, well, another human, just by talking to them.
Exactly. And the judge can only interact with the machine and the other human through like a chat interface. No seeing or hearing them, just text.
So it's all about language, right? Like,
Yeah.
how well can the machine use language to fool the human?
Yeah, basically. And if the machine can hold a conversation so convincingly that the judge can't tell who's the human and who's the machine, well, it passes the test.
It's a really intriguing idea. Makes you wonder, what would it actually take for a machine to truly pass that test?
Right. Is it even possible? And that leads us to the Chinese room, which throws a whole other wrench into our understanding of what thinking actually is.
Right, it kind of flips the script, doesn't it? So walk us through the Chinese room. I love this thought experiment.
Okay, so picture this. You're locked in a room, no windows, no way to see outside. You've got this massive rule book in front of you. It's filled with instructions for manipulating Chinese symbols.
Okay, so far so good. I'm picturing like a really detailed calligraphy manual.
Something like that, yeah. The catch is you don't actually understand any Chinese. You're just following these rules.
Right, like a recipe, but for symbols.
Exactly. And people outside the room, they're slipping questions written in Chinese under the door.
And you're just matching symbols.
Well, more than just matching. By following the rules in the book, you're able to send back answers that are, grammatically speaking, correct.
Whoa, so to an outsider, it looks like you understand Chinese, but you're just manipulating symbols based on a set of rules.
Exactly. And that's Searle's big point. He's saying this thought experiment challenges the idea that simply following instructions equals genuine understanding.
So are computers just doing the same thing? Like, are they just really good at manipulating symbols?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's a tough one, because if just processing symbols isn't enough for understanding, well, then what is? What more is there?
Right. What actually is understanding? It makes you think about all those times you've learned something new. Like, when did you go from memorizing facts to really getting it? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's a difference between knowing something intellectually and actually understanding it, feeling it on an intuitive level.
Yeah, exactly. And how do we even begin to measure that? Especially when it comes to machines.
Well, and that brings us back to the Turing test, doesn't it? If we can't even clearly define understanding, how can we possibly judge whether a machine is truly passing the test?
It's a trickle situation.
Yeah, but that's sort of the genius of Turing, right? He realized how difficult, how slippery the whole concept of consciousness is.
Right, right. It's not exactly easy to define.
So he decided to focus on what we could observe, how a system behaves, how it interacts.
So if a machine acts intelligently, if it solves problems, if it even shows creativity, does it really matter if it's conscious in the same way that we are?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Is passing the Turing test enough to say a machine is truly intelligent? Or does it need something more? Like some kind of inner experience, subjective consciousness?
Right. Like, I can imagine a machine writing a poem that's absolutely beautiful, maybe even makes me feel things.
Yeah, and that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because on one hand, you have this incredible creation, but on the other, you're wondering, was there any real feeling behind it? Or was it just mimicking what it had learned?
And this isn't just some theoretical debate anymore, right? I
Oh,
mean, look around. AI is everywhere.
it really is. We have chatbots that can sound eerily human, algorithms composing original music, self-driving cars navigating traffic. It's both fascinating and, yeah, a little bit unsettling.
Because it forces us to confront these questions head on.
Yeah.
What does it mean to think, to understand, to be human? These questions used to feel kind of philosophical, abstract.
Yeah, but now they're very real,
Yeah.
very relevant.
Okay, so We've covered a lot of ground here. We started with these thought experiments, these puzzles about intelligence, and now we're facing real-world AI that's pushing the boundaries of everything we thought possible.
It really is remarkable. And the thing is, it's only going to get more complex, more challenging.
So as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this question. It builds on everything we've talked about today. If a machine can create something truly beautiful, if it can solve complex problems, maybe even move you emotionally, does it really matter how it got there?
That's a fantastic question.
As we step further into the age of AI, we're all going to have to grapple with these questions. What does it mean to think, to understand, to be human? Could a machine ever truly think? What do you think?
It's something we all need to be thinking about.
Definitely. And on that note, we'll wrap things up for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's always great to talk about this stuff.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.